Do you have that one cabinet under your kitchen sink? The one stuffed with plastic grocery bags? Not just a few, but a whole overflowing colony breeding quietly in the dark. And even though you bring your own reusable bags to the store these days, and even though your city probably charges you for every plastic bag you do take, you just can't throw them out. Maybe it's not plastic bags for you. Maybe it's old takeout containers you've washed and saved, just in case. Or the stack of newspapers from 6 months ago, or the half-broken gadget you're sure you can fix one day. You're financially stable. You make a good living. You could easily buy a new container, or recycle the papers, or replace the gadget. But still, they sit there. And if you're anything like me, sometimes a quiet, almost shame-filled voice whispers, "What does this say about me? Am I a hoarder? Why do I feel this deep, irrational guilt about letting go of things I don't even need?" Today, we're going to talk about that plastic bag drawer and what it tells us about our money stories, especially for those of us who grew up in immigrant families. Because it's not just about clutter, it's about the invisible threads of scarcity, memory, and love that weave through our financial lives. Just last week, I was doing a deep clean in my own kitchen. You know, trying to be an adult. I pulled open the cabinet under the sink, and there it was. The bag of bags. A black hole of Target bags, Whole Foods bags, bags from random stores I haven't visited in years. They were all crumpled up, tangled together, some even ripped. I stared at them, a small battle raging in my head. "May, just throw them out," I told myself. "You have a dozen canvas totes hanging by the door. You haven't used these in forever." But my hand paused. It felt wrong, like a betrayal. I could almost hear my mum's voice in my head. "Lang fei lang fei," she'd say. Wasteful. Why throw away something perfectly good? You can use it for trash, for packing, for a million things. I ended up just pushing them back in, a little further this time, and slammed the cabinet door shut, defeated, over a bunch of plastic bags. It's wild, right? Later that day, I was talking to my mum on the phone. She was asking about my groceries. Not just if I got food, but how much everything cost if I went to the goods store with the sales. May, she said, sighing a little. You spend too much on fancy water. Just drink tap water. We always drank tap water. It's fine, I sighed back. Mum, it's just sparkling water. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal now, she corrected. But small things add up. You save 10 cents here, 20 cents there. One day, you look, it's a lot of money. This wasn't an argument. It was just Mum. It was the background music of my childhood. Every trip to the grocery store, every new purchase, every time I asked for something beyond the absolute necessities, there was this undercurrent, this gentle, persistent hum of be careful, be mindful, save, save, save. It wasn't always about what she said. It was about what she did. The way she'd painstakingly clean out yogurt containers and use them for leftovers, refusing to buy new Tupperware. The way my dad would walk around the house at night, turning off every single light, even if someone was still in the room, just to save a few pennies on the electricity bill. The way a broken chair wouldn't be thrown out, but stored in the garage for years, waiting for some mythical future repair. One time, when I was in college, I went home for a break. My mum saw I had bought a new winter coat. It was a good one, on sale, and I needed it. But her reaction wasn't joy. It was a quick once over, then, "Oh, you bought a new coat. Your old one, what's wrong with it?" It was still good. You could have worn it another year. It hit me then, and it hits me still, that for my parents, buying something new, even a necessity, was always a last resort. a sign that the old thing had truly, completely given up the ghost. My comfortable, middle-class life where I could buy a coat just because I liked it better, or because the old one was getting a bit worn, felt almost decadent to them, or worse, wasteful. Like I hadn't truly grasped the value of $1 or the effort it took to earn it. And so here I am, an adult with a good job, living in my own apartment, still wrestling with a bag of plastic bags, still feeling that tiny ping of guilt when I buy something just for fun, or when I consider upgrading something that's still good. It's not just an old habit, it's a part of my story. What May and so many of us experience is a classic example of what's called a scarcity mindset. It's a pattern of thinking where resources feel perpetually limited, even when they're objectively abundant. It makes you focus intensely on what you don't have, or what you could lose, rather than what you do have or what you could gain. This isn't just about being frugal or smart with money. That's a good thing. A scarcity mindset goes deeper. It's a fundamental belief system that shapes your behavior in subtle, often subconscious ways. It can show up in that drawer full of plastic bags, but it also shows up in bigger financial decisions. For example, maybe you're someone who saves diligently. You have a good emergency fund. You might even have investments. But you still feel constant financial anxiety. You check your bank balance multiple times a day. You worry about losing your job, even when things are stable. You might hoard cash in a low-interest savings account, terrified to invest it because it feels too risky, too exposed. Even though logically, you know investing is how wealth grows. This is where the scarcity mindset intersects with money scripts. Money scripts are those unconscious, often unspoken beliefs about money that we pick up from childhood, usually from our parents. They're the rules we live by, even if we don't realize it. For May, and many of us from immigrant families, common money scripts might be, money is hard to get. Always save for a rainy day. Don't waste anything. Money is a source of anxiety or conflict, or even, it's selfish to spend money on yourself. Think about that moment May had with her mum about the sparkling water. It wasn't a lecture, but it reinforced a money script. Don't spend money on luxuries. Or the Coke conversation, don't replace things until they are absolutely broken. These small, repeated messages, combined with observed behaviors, create a powerful internal rulebook. Another way scarcity mindset impacts us is through financial trauma. Now, trauma might sound like a strong word for something like plastic bags, but bear with me. Financial trauma isn't just about experiencing a major financial disaster. It can also be the result of prolonged exposure to scarcity, stress, or a constant state of financial anxiety, especially during formative years. When you grow up watching your parents pinch every penny, sacrifice everything, and live with a constant fear of not enough, your brain learns to associate money with stress and a need for extreme vigilance. Even when you're an adult earning, well, that ingrained fear can linger, manifesting as an inability to enjoy your money, a difficulty in trusting abundance, or that constant feeling of not being safe enough, no matter how much you have in the bank. It's why you might feel incredibly guilty spending money on experiences that bring you joy, like a vacation or a hobby, or why you might struggle to invest in yourself, whether it's an educational course or a therapist, even when you know it would benefit you. The scarcity script says, save it. You might need it later for something critical. Don't splurge. Don't trust that it will always be there. It's a heavy burden to carry, even if it feels invisible. So, where does this scarcity mindset come from? For our immigrant parents, it's not some arbitrary choice. It's often deeply rooted in their lived experience and the historical context they came from. It's not a flaw. It was a survival strategy. Think about the generations who immigrated to America, especially from countries like China. My parents, for instance, lived through immense upheaval. They grew up in an era defined by revolution, famine, political instability, and economic hardship. My dad tells stories of rationing, of having barely enough to eat, of clothes being patched and repatched until they were threadbare. My mum remembers moving frequently, always starting over with very little. When they came to the US, they often arrived with nothing but a suitcase and incredible determination. They started at the bottom. They worked multiple jobs, sent money back home, and faced discrimination. Every dollar earned was hard won. Every penny saved was a shield against the fear of returning to poverty. They didn't have the luxury of thinking about abundance or self-care when their primary focus was survival and building a foundation for their children. For them, saving every plastic bag, reusing every container, never wasting a single crumb of food. These weren't just habits. They were deeply ingrained values, born of necessity and resilience. They were physical manifestations of a philosophy that said, resources are precious. Don't take them for granted. The future is uncertain, so always prepare for the worst. It's also tied into cultural values. In many East Asian cultures, frugality is a virtue. There's a strong emphasis on modesty, avoiding ostentation, and focusing on long-term family stability. Showing off wealth can be seen as vulgar or inviting misfortune. Saving for the family's future, for the children's education, for elderly parents. These are paramount duties. Spending money on fleeting personal pleasures might feel selfish or irresponsible in that context. My parents didn't just teach me to save money. They taught me the value of money, the effort it took to earn it, and the consequences of wasting it. They didn't mean to pass on anxiety or a limiting belief. They meant to equip me with the tools for survival and success in a world they knew could be harsh. They wanted me to be secure, to never experience the kind of hardship they did. The problem arises when these survival strategies, which were absolutely essential for them, get passed down to a generation living in a completely different context. What was once a life-saving tool can become a limiting belief system, preventing us from fully thriving or making the most of the opportunities available to us in a more stable financial environment. The plastic bag drawer isn't just about plastic. It's a symbol of that legacy, a legacy we need to acknowledge with compassion, both for our parents and for ourselves. Recognizing this pattern and understanding where it comes from was a huge shift for me. It didn't magically make me throw away all my plastic bags overnight, but it did change how I felt about them. It helped me understand that my impulse to save them wasn't a personal failing, but a deeply ingrained money script passed down with love, albeit with some unintended side effects. The first step in my shift was to acknowledge that this scarcity mindset was holding me back. It wasn't serving me anymore. I was financially secure, but I wasn't feeling secure. I was saving, but I wasn't truly building wealth in the most effective ways because fear was still driving a lot of my decisions. So I started small, very small, the plastic bags. Instead of just shoving them back in, I decided to tackle the drawer. I didn't throw them all away. That felt too extreme, but I sorted them. I kept a reasonable stack for actual trash can liners and other uses. The rest, the truly ripped ones, the ones that had been there for ages, the ones I knew I'd never use, I recycled them. And when I did, I took a deep breath. There was a moment of discomfort, but it passed. It was a symbolic act of saying, I choose what serves me now. Then I applied this insight to bigger financial areas. My scarcity mindset had manifested in a few ways. 1. Hoarding cash. I had a good emergency fund, but I also had a significant chunk of money just sitting in a regular savings account, earning almost nothing. It felt safe because it was accessible, but it was actively losing purchasing power to inflation. 2. Delaying investments. The idea of locking up money, even for something as beneficial as retirement, felt risky. What if I needed it? What if the market crashed? 3. Guilt around spending on myself, even for things that would genuinely improve my life or well-being. The concrete actions I took were aimed at addressing these. First, I looked at my cash hoarding. My financial planner, who I finally hired, another act that felt like a luxury but was an investment in myself, helped me see that a healthy emergency fund is crucial, but beyond that, cash needed to be put to work. This led me to fully fund my Roth IRA for the year. For those of you not familiar, a Roth IRA is a retirement account where you contribute after-tax money. The big benefit? All your growth and your withdrawals in retirement are completely tax-free. It's an incredible tool for generational wealth, especially for someone in my age bracket, because that money has decades to grow tax-free. My parents would have seen this as locking money away. They would have worried about not being able to access it easily. And it is money that's meant for retirement. But understanding that investing is a form of strategic saving, a way to ensure future security, helped me overcome that hesitation. It's not wasteful, it's responsible, but with a different kind of foresight. It's saying, I trust that I will continue to earn, and I will grow this money strategically for an even more secure future. Second, I finally started building my credit score more intentionally. This is a common one for immigrant families. My parents were always debt-averse, which is good in many ways. But it also meant they never really used credit cards or took out loans beyond a mortgage. They taught me to pay cash, to avoid debt at all costs. While this protected me from bad debt, it also meant my credit history was thin. I realized that a good credit score isn't about debt. It's about financial reliability. It's essential for getting good interest rates on a mortgage, for renting an apartment, even for some jobs. So, I got a credit card, used it for everyday expenses. I already budgeted for like groceries and gas, and paid it off in full, every single month. Slowly, my score started to climb. It felt like taking control of a part of the US financial system that my parents had, understandably, viewed with suspicion. Third, I revisited my budgeting. Before, budgeting felt like restriction. Every dollar had to justify its existence as a necessity. Now, I see it as allocation. I budget for essentials, yes, but I also intentionally budget for joy. This includes things like eating out with friends, buying a book, taking a yoga class, or yes, even buying sparkling water. By giving these items a line in my budget, they become planned, intentional expenses, not guilty splurges. It removes the emotional weight, the shame, and the feeling of wasting. It's an affirmation that my well-being is also a valuable investment. This shift isn't about abandoning my parents' values. It's about honoring their sacrifices by building my own financial security and well-being, using the tools available in my world. It's about taking the resilience and hard work they instilled in me and channeling it into modern financial strategies that allow me to thrive, not just survive. It's about creating a new kind of generational wealth. Not just money, but a healthier, more abundant money mindset. It's still a work in progress, of course. Sometimes I still hear my mum's voice in my head when I consider a purchase. Sometimes I still catch myself hesitating to spend on something for myself. But now I can recognize it. I can say, that's the scarcity script talking. That's my parents' love and fear manifesting. But I'm okay now. I'm safe. and I choose to invest in my future, in my well-being, in a way that truly serves me. And sometimes that means throwing away a plastic bag, or maybe, just maybe, giving it a new life as a thoughtfully repurposed trash liner. Progress, not perfection. If this hit close to home, you're not alone, and you're not stuck repeating it. Subscribe for more stories about money, family, and the quiet patterns that shape how we live. See you in the next one.